No.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I waited too. That's okay. It's all good.
So you're not moving down?
Sunday afternoon, you said.
How's your hand? It's not in the same hands anymore. Oh,
Did they make that one for you?
oh,
When I went to therapy, they looked at it to my hand. Yeah, I loved it. It was so nice.
I have no, it's certain edges because of my stitches were. They're like, I just got it this afternoon, so
I take it back and have them redo it.
I
Because
might
it should fit you.
tomorrow. Because it's kind of like laying out at the end and
Max, are you
right
ready?
here, it's
Max,
stitches.
you ready?
It's not,
Whenever you are, Mr. Chair.
Alright, I'd like to start the Building Zoning Development Committee meeting at 7 o'clock on January 17th, 2023. On the agenda is case number 22-23436, and ordinance 2023-2 CRE tax abatement. Mr. Upson, you want to start us off with the case number 222-2346?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you tonight, case number 22-23436, applicant being Brian Blum, superintendent of our wastewater treatment plant. This is for the EQ basin that was heard at Planning Commission, was favorably recommended. There was one public comment received from an adjacent property owner that, if my understanding, uses that particular property as a rental property. I did ask our consultant team to draft the additional renderings that you see that show proposed elevation views from Stearns Road 480, where that particular property owner abuts as well, and you can see that there is no interference with sight lines or anything that would negatively impact their properties. As part of the submission, you see the proposed finished concepts on the, I believe it's the 4th page. Rooftop profile is going to remain same or similar to the surrounding neighborhoods, and that's really all we have on this particular project. It's EQ basin.
Mr. Chair, and the roof is still going to be silver?
Of the dome itself,
Yeah.
correct. I'm talking the rooftop profile of the maintenance facility that would house some of the equipment to go in and check and that sort of thing.
Any questions from committee? Ms. Hema, go ahead.
Thank you. There was only that one objection at Planning Commission, and it wasn't even a large objection, really. I want everyone to understand. It was simply because he's a neighboring property, but he has been on record, I think, since the last couple of years, since, the whole site selection and a lot of things, and I think it was really just a continuation of wanting to remain on the record. If that's helpful to anyone. Thank you.
Any questions from council? Ms. Williamson?
thank you. I know that top is going to be silver. They were gonna keep that silver. I know they said it's aluminum, but you can't paint aluminum, but we have aluminum cans. Do you know what the difference is? Why we can't have a color on it?
Don't know why the silver can't be any other color. I know that in similar EQ basins, the only thing I've ever seen is a silver color. I don't know if that's the material, but it's housing and keeping.
Thank you. Just for the record, the present are all of the present council members, the mayor, the law director, resources director, the recreation director, police safety director, and events. Alright, so with any other questions from council? Alright, at this time, I'd like a motion to recommend approval of case number 22-23436 and ask for a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Seaman, I didn't hear.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Next on the agenda is ordinance 223-2, CRA tax abatement. Mr. Upson, go ahead. Upton, the front Upson. Mr. Upton, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you tonight, with respect to this particular legislation, there is some cleanup with respect to how this law interacts with the Ohio Revised Code. Director Giroux can speak to that if there are any questions on the technicalities of the revisions. The provision which the administration is putting before you for your consideration is the elimination of property tax abatement for new residential development within the city of North Homestead. Reason being, we simply believe that North Homestead is a strong city with a strong market, great schools, great amenities, and tax abatement from a residential perspective at a high level is meant to drive investment where it otherwise would not have happened. We know that folks want to be here, they want to develop here, and this is an incentive that, in our view, is not necessary to spur residential development in our city.
Two questions I had. One is, do we know how many people took advantage of the tax abatement that we put into place back in?
Not offhand, Mr. Chairman. This legislation was originally passed in 2014, if memory serves me correctly, and we average on about a dozen or so housing starts a year, plus or minus. So high end, you're talking maybe 85 or 90 homes. Those folks don't lose their abatement; they still get it. It's abatement on any new residential development. So high end, probably 80 to 96 individual homeowners.
And then the other question I had is, do we have any concern? Obviously, there's a hope that we will be entering into some new development in the near future. Do we have any concerns or any feedback of how that would impact builders to acquire the property and build based on not having tax abatement, based on likely?
I mean, any builder will tell you that they'd rather have an abatement than not. But again, if you go to the underlying market, the strong school system, the access to amenities, the proximity to the highway, the health of our neighborhoods, and the services that the city provides, we just don't need it. Where I come from, or at my last stop, when I worked in the city of Lorraine, tax abatement was sorely needed, and if it had not been for tax abatement, none of the new housing on the west side of that city would have been built. It's supposed to be an incentive that would correct for a market imperfection, and in other words, to say investment would not happen here unless there was an abatement. That's just not the case here.
And I guess the last question I had is, are we aware what other suburbs on the west side, do any of them still have an abatement in place?
For residential?
For residential?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. Maybe Lakewood, but if you're talking our direct peer West Shore communities, not to my knowledge.
Any other questions from committee? Ms. Heeman?
Yeah, another question on front. I think that, with the tax abatement and the fact that we don't have a lot of available property, it makes property that is available more valuable, and we can, I always not selling ourselves short by thinking we had to give tax abatements for someone to want to come in and develop. When I attended the resident meeting, for the developer that's interested in the Grace Road area, the residents were really happy, and Builder was bending over backwards to try to do whatever he could to satisfy those people. And there was no tax abatement to him, but he was really thrilled. We have a great location, we've got great schools, we have a lot to offer, I think. So, Yeah, I'm in favor of this.
Mr. Chair. Briefly, one comment, Mr. Upton. Several years ago, we eliminated the remodeling component of this for the same reason. People, even though it was advertised, it was well known, it was on the website, when they would apply for it, they'd come with the plans, they were already ready to do the remodeling, and they'd say, oh, well, there's some money available, and then they would apply for it. It's not like they came looking for money, and then they, oh, can we do this project or not? Does it fit in the budget? People had already made a determination, so it really wasn't inducing anyone to do anything, it was just more of a, here, have some money. So that was the thought several years ago, and that was brought to you to eliminate. Second part of this ordinance that was amended is when the administration brought forward this particular component that Director Upton addressed. The second one is we have language in there concerning duties and membership. These are regulated by the Ohio Revised Code, and it was already outdated. It was inconsistent with the revised code, so we just changed to say that membership shall be as established by the Ohio Revised Code for the council, and the same thing with the duties. So they change it, no one hears about it, no one notices it, and then you get this stale, outdated code. So it's just a matter of let's just track with the Ohio Revised Code so we don't have any problems in the future. And the ORC changed it several years ago, the state legislature did, because you couldn't get a quorum, nobody would show up. They changed the membership to try to use more county people to increase the possibility of having a quorum to fulfill the duties. So just that's the only reason I changed those other sections was to track the Ohio Revised Code. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Or Ms. Williams, go ahead.
Thank you. Is this, is the tax abatement transferable? So if someone purchases a home and decides not to stay there for the 15 or 12, 15 years, would it transfer to the new owners?
Yes, yeah, tax abatement is transferable.
Okay.
Currently.
And most times it typically is, whether you commercial or residential.
Thank you.
Mr. Glassberg, go ahead.
Thank you. To me, the biggest distinction is for us to do this is that if you read how the current ordinance is, it's more or less automatic that you build something new, you get this, as long as you apply for it. That doesn't induce necessarily demand. If we were to, there may be a time in the future we want to bring something like this back. But at that point, I think it would be more prudent for us to not have it just as an entitlement, but as something either we as a city are selectively choosing, we want to get this area developed or want to do this project, not just.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, my only observation with tax abatements is there would be some benefit to encourage if there was a specific type of build or housing that we wanted to get on those properties, to be able to still enable it for a certain dollar threshold or square footage threshold or something of the type of building that we're looking to diversify from what we have today. And in that case, there may be some benefit to drive the right type of build versus just a, as Mr. Rose said, a blanket abatement that people find out after they're deciding they want to do it. So that'd be my only observation on it. Other than that, I don't have any other questions. Any questions from council? Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to recommend 2023-2 Sierra tax abatement. Ask for a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 2-0. And I will conclude Building Zone Development meeting at 7:12 p.m.
In the Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee meeting, Tuesday, January 17th at 7:14. To discuss ordinance 2022-106, which is an ordinance amending chapter 557 of the General Offenses Code of the City of North Olmsted entitled Sale of Cigarettes and Tobacco Products in order to update regulations for the sale to or possession of cigarettes, electronic cigarettes, or other tobacco or alternate nicotine products by individuals under 21 years of age and declaring an emergency. Director Schofield?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of council. As you might recall, we asked you to hold this piece of legislation back on January 3rd, pending decision by the governor whether he was going to sign or veto State House Bill 513, which would have banned local municipalities from putting any additional restrictions on tobacco products, especially flavored products. So on January 5th, he did in fact veto that bill, so that relieved any concerns we might have moving forward of being out of sync with that. What you have in front of you is really just some additional updates to the 2019 modifications that were made. And we did this to better align with the current Ohio Revised Code. Just a couple quick changes. You'll notice in the previous version, we deleted section 55703, which was just held reserved for future sections, and then we added 557.06 for vendor assisted sales. In section 55701, we updated the definition for electronic cigarette to reflect electronic smoking devices. We expanded the definition of tobacco product to include a broader variety of electronic smoking devices and tobacco products such as little cigars and snus. We added vapor product to the definitions. We shortened the definition of vending machine, which links back up to the vendor assisted sales component. We retained the youth smoking education program because of its ties to juvenile court and their diversion programs. And then throughout the document, we also changed language referring to child or minor or anyone under 18 years of age to better ensure consistency throughout the legislation in referring to people either under or over the age of 21. The only exception to that is for research purposes as listed in section 55702(2)B, which deals with research protocol if someone under the age of 21 with parental or guardian permission is participating in a research study. And then there will be a companion piece coming forward on business zoning that will be introduced, working in partnership with Director Upton to make sure, again, that this legislation reflects what's in the business code.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions from committee? Rest of council? Mr. Scruggs.
Thank you. Director Schofield, the 55703E, if the juvenile court finds that child violates any of these sections, says the fine, it could impose a fine not more than $100. Who set that $100 price? Does the state set that price, or is it just what? How was it derived?
Us, that we have set that fine, it's my understanding.
Not to exceed 100?
Madam Chairman? And also, we do handle a lot of these through the juvenile diversion program here in North Homestead, and that would give me grounds upon which to proceed with that as well. So the cases that get filed as a charge against the juvenile goes downtown kicks it back to us, and we handle it as part of our formal diversion program.
And then juvenile's not gonna pay the parents, so they're paying the fine.
Well, I know
Unless
the
they take it.
magistrates, they pay attention to that question when it comes up, to make sure that there's some accountability for the juveniles involved.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, for the record, I'd like to state that all members of council are present, along with the mayor and the directors of law, finance, human resources, economic development, safety, recreation, and special assistant to the mayor. Having no further questions, we will conclude our meeting at 7.
Do we need to move this?
Yeah, we do, I forgot, thank you. I'd like to
Sorry,
make a motion
I
that-
apologize to interrupt.
Thank you for catching me before I close this meeting out. Okay, then I'll make a motion to recommend approval to all of council and ask for a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Glassman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes with a vote of 2-0. And our meeting concludes at 7:19 p.m. Thank you, and thank you for reminding me, Mr. Glassman.
Okay, it is 7:20, so we will start the Finance Committee of Council. Present are committee members Glassman, Gilbert, and Williamson. The rest of our current council, mayor, directors of law, finance, HR, economic development, safety service, not service, recreation and special assistant plan. The agenda is 2023-1, our capital improvements that we had in the temporary budget that are read separately and are in separate legislation now. Anyone like to speak to this legislation? Director Hopper.
Madam Mayor, is it okay?
Please, of course.
To lead on this. All these items were discussed during budget hearings, but I'll just go over quickly. In the permanent improvements fund, the asphalt overlay, the $1.2 million is for the streets, and the $70,000 is part of the capital engineering. The $950,000 comes out of the TIP fund for the gateway enhancement portion of the Great Northern Bridge project. And in the local fiscal recovery funds, demolition of Forest Elementary is $327,000. Recall there's also $75,000 that was already encumbered in 2022 for the highest and best use for forest. The senior center improvements and the community cabin improvements are, if you have any specific items, I think you discussed those during budget hearings as well, but they are the kitchen and
Community cabin and kitchen renovation.
for a senior center, both kitchens, correct?
Right.
Okay. Springvale has the fairway drainage 2, the parking lot resurfacing and lighting for the land improvements, and carpet countertops and flooring. And the building improvements for the clubhouse and the restrooms. And the wastewater treatment, this is the restroom shower remodel that was part of, it's kind of been an ongoing project that they're working on, and the RAS roof replacement and window replacement in that area. And then the last is just, there's $65,581 in miscellaneous sanitary sewer construction. This is the improvement funds for wastewater, so they can use that on, and should use it on sanitary sewer construction projects.
Thank you, Director. Are any, usually there's some of these items that eventually become bonded. Are we actually, all the items on this list, not none of them that are gonna end up being part of debt service?
That's correct.
Wow, nifty.
I mean, you know, the fiscal recovery funds, I mean, are obviously part of it.
Right.
The TIF is one, and I think the last couple of years we've tried not to borrow for our annual road improvement, so that has, hopefully, unless there's a specific large project, we're past that point.
Very good. Very exciting. Are there any questions? Are there any questions from the Finance Committee? Any questions from Council? Mr. Scarl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Copper, could you just refresh my memory, if you know, what's the total cost for that bridge project?
I do not have that answer. This piece is only, Mr. Upton, this piece is for the design portion of it, correct? The $950,000 for the capital improvement,
That's the whole project.
including the,
Design, fabrication, install.
and that's our share of it?
Correct.
What's the total cost of the bridge?
I would say $1.1 million and some change.
So the remainder money is coming from the state?
The Gateway Enhancement Project, there is a base scope of work that was just replacement of existing chain link fence, right?
Right.
And we get a deduct credit for the basic chain link fence. And so we get that deduct credit, and then there's some additional parapet and reinforcement work that has to happen along with that. But the aesthetics are the city's responsibility.
Thank you.
Are there further questions?
Just gonna ask, not right now, but I would be interested to know kind of what is our anticipated maintenance cost of the aesthetic improvements ongoing, like when would we expect to have to add more funds in the future? I don't know if that was part of the assessment, but I'd just be interested in
The aesthetics are being designed in a way to lessen that maintenance cost in the way that they're being fabricated, powder coated, and then ultimately painted. So it's not gonna be like the rust that you just see dripping on the bridge right now. That was part of one of the driving forces there was the mayor's vision to create a strong gateway so that people know that they're coming to a really vibrant place when they're coming to North Homestead. So that was taken into account during the design of the actual enhancements themselves. And that project's due to sell here in the next few weeks. So we should be getting better numbers as we get closer, but that's, this 950 represents a worst case scenario.
Thank you.
Very good. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I will move to favorably recommend 2023-1 and ask for a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Limpert. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's 3-0. And seeing no further business of the Finance Committee, I will conclude at 7:26 p.m.
I'm watching the color.
Because I want to pay you later. Because that just. The people, if you're giving it to them, I don't care. Psychologically, this is how I need to do it.
First I got the plaster.
That's right, they used to be just regular yesterday.
Purple one.
The Intra-Governmental Relations Committee will come to order on January 17, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. Present are Council President Broussard, committee members Gilchrist, Keenan, and Scarl, council members Glassburn, Limpert, and Williamson. The mayor, assistant law director, finance director, HR director, economic director, safety director, service director, recreation director, special assistant to the mayor, and guests. On the agenda tonight is council's reappointment of Mr. Tom Dabowski to the Landmarks Commission. Does anyone on the committee have any questions or comments? Yes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment, we couldn't have anyone finer than Mr. Dabowski to continue to serve us on that committee, really. So, I'm so pleased he was wanting to continue with us.
Madam Chair, just
Yeah.
to add, he really is he's well not in a leading position, he really is a leader on that committee. He's always prepared, so excellent choice there. Good point.
Any other comments or questions? I agree with those statements as well. So seeing no other comments, at this time I move to recommend Mr. Tom Dabowski to the Landmarks Commission for a 4-year term beginning January 2023 and ending December 31st, 2026, and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion made to reappoint Tom Dabowski to the Landmarks Commission for the term of January 2023 to December 31st, 2026, made by Ms. Gilchrist and seconded by Ms. Heeman. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes a vote of 3-0. With nothing else on the agenda, the Intra-Governmental Relations Committee will adjourn at 7:32 p.m. Thank you.
I don't want to work on late. No, just I'm trying to avoid it. What's up, buddy?
Right now, I'm showing something happening to.
How's Ben doing?
So right now, I'm scheduled for I don't know what I had scheduled for tomorrow. Right now, so let's go. It works on my computer, it's on my phone. It's probably what I'm saying.
Nice guys. I'm sure Daddy Mother said I'm up with that. In the city, and you guys did it before. Best practice.
Yeah, forgot. Thank you. Just trying to get this right. It's like a freaking just wrote
I went inevitably the
You make almost plugs in this, in one union across the country.
the other day.
First time this year, second
I'm sure we, I got to do, I don't know how. It's every meeting.
Right.
So,
It's been done all the way back.
That's like I
Oh, he
said,
did.
that's the way I was taught.
I thought it was a new thing. Like I lost the memo or something. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're going to.
Are you working?
And they went 2 days.
Yeah.
That may be a but
You're in physical therapy.
Just put this on today.
Oh, good. Did they tell you? I was just gonna say it.
We'll just trade.
There you go. Well, speaking of calls.
I have a little message got here.
And I say I'm extra, I do. Ken.
Down there, yesterday.
That was my free lunch. Now, if that were the case, I'd be talking to Rick. But,
Maybe all of them.
that's what I want.
I called Saturday,
He got me a clean.
15th was that Sunday. I called
I need
Saturday.
to get like a bulletin.
I'm not good with my own kids though.
Well, we stayed.
Anyway, Brandon,
No, this guy.
Georgian at the rec center when she
I don't know how
was
to, no one answered the phone.
20
So down there, yesterday morning.
The chief split her head open.
I get there just married.
14 stitches, 7 on the inside and 7 on the outside. I remember, yeah, we played. Yeah, yeah, it was remarkable. So it was my own kids. But like, I like,
Carney's on there.
no, yeah, I think it's.
I was out here, they come.
Oh, yeah, I've seen them out there.
You know what?
Yeah, it's cool though. I mean, the way the body heals and stuff, that's really,
We were first grade.
our bodies
But
are
then,
No,
like, we don't.
really have so much to be able to heal themselves and sew themselves back up together. Make that flesh warm again.
We're not that far ahead. We get our new house.
You're not just any number. Mary should know that. Well, she knows that. She said, did you get it? No. He goes, I'll come out and bring it to you. No, he didn't say it.
But I love this.
You know what this is?
I get hurt and I go to the conversation. Yeah.
A holiday, the day off.
Sure.
And I love honey.
Depends on the person.
Yeah, that's
Their color, it's my.
Right. We think about the turkeys, I think, this is the first year we've done it.
Yeah.
Good deal.
They'll get you there. You can't write it always like left hand. Like I'm by that. I can sign my name, I can do a couple little things. Not at all.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, B.
Okay. So. Yeah, we'll just use the good. Is it?
No, that's okay.
Well, when you say band-aid, because it's not your common. Yeah. Mhm.
That's what we do.
My jacket, yeah, I'm president.
I had it first.
Oh, you guys have matching jackets?
He picked it up for me at the summer historical.
Well, I don't.
Well,
no, I.
It's Veterans Day, it was President's
Oh,
Day,
right.
something like that, President's Day or Martin Luther King Day a year ago. Later.
You didn't get the memo to wear it tonight.
And I'm not allowed to work the same day.
Oh.
What can I do?
I mean, I like to advertise this, especially for the safety director, but like the floorboards open, and then that's.
Oh, you store some children on cars.
Very good. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
It's from my
We had
boss.
to take 2 cars.
The answer is not,
Because there were people going in different directions, and I had to do it one time. We were laughing.
These are cool.
I'm like, it's pulled up.
I like the name of the company.
My siblings and I would be like.
WT.
Oh, trust me.
Show them.
I actually, honestly, would be humorous.
We all have different ones for our boss.
No, not at all. Not at all. Walk by, I'm really like, I mean,
The mother and the daughter were there.
I know, I'm reading it. It's about the last
It's called
time the
action.
United States Air Force was cool, when it was called the Army Air Corps.
Oh, and I thought about it.
Oh, well.
No, it's not. They were too busy stealing cars over there. They're still selling
I
cars.
forgot to tell you guys.
They got 3 out of 2 back, or 3 out of 5 back.
My girlfriend started. She's this
I'll call you tomorrow.
She controls it, I said, well, no, and she'll like pop a tree out, and we all walk up and jump through it.
It's okay. I think that feels right.
I read one of your trips today.
We got 5 guys out front.
And, I was in the service too, and you guys.
Wow.
What branch was the only one worth being called? Christ, you're the Marine right there.
Those are really nice.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, she has it, we watch it. It's hilarious. I know it's coming.
Well,
It's
like
so a bunch of fine cars on each side. It didn't come with like, I think 5 or 6 of them
That's
were
so
going.
cute. I know, oh my, it's so adorable. Yeah, it was in Drugmart in the center and it's gray, blue eyes, it was so adorable.
that
I was
really
like,
people right now, and of course.
I was here yesterday, Channel 5.
He knows all this, he
I
knows.
was hoping it was
So you can find
stolen cars.
so cute, it's so, it's like a
when
teddy
is
bear or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because.
Becky, stressed out.
He did take that, yeah. Yeah, it's just that.
That's a good
Well,
one. That's
so-
a little long.
Oh,
Yes, that environmental services vocational aptitude, that's what.
I'll make sure I send you more of ours.
I'm just talking, just thinking about my experience at Max and a lot of changes in the world.
Get one of like, Caucus.
Does he have a
The caucus meeting of January 7th, 2023 will now come to order at 7:45 p.m. Present are all members of council, as well as the mayor and the directors of law, finance, HR, economic development, safety, service, recreation, special assistant to the mayor, and guests. If there are no additions or corrections, the caucus meeting minutes of December 20th, 2022 and January 3rd, 2023 are approved as written. Regarding suspension, there is one item on the agenda being requested for suspension this evening, and that would be resolution 2023-6, which is on first reading. Mayor Jones, would you like to speak about this one?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. Before council, we're bringing to you a resolution so that the administration can seek a grant opportunity through the state of Ohio. We're asking for suspension this evening because this opportunity came up just last week. And we are engaged with Cuyahoga County right now to move forward with the Clague Road resurfacing project. Now is the optimal time for us to try and get the safety money to add the turn lane on Clague at Maple Ridge.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any objections from council to suspension? Okay, thank you. And before we move into assigning legislation, the mayor has informed council that the administration would like to have resolution 2023-5 removed from the agenda this evening. So moving into assigning legislation, resolution 2023-3 will be assigned to public safety, health, and welfare. Resolutions 2023-4 and 2023-6, as well as ordinance 2023-7 will be assigned to streets and transportation. And then lastly, ordinance 2023-8 will be assigned to recreation, public parks, and buildings. So moving into scheduling committee meetings for Tuesday, January 23rd, 2023. Councilwoman Williamson, would you like to schedule public safety, health, and welfare?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to schedule that meeting for 7 p.m. For resolution 2023-3, and I would ask the committee or designate be present.
Thank you. Any guesstimate on how long?
5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Heeman, would you like to schedule recreation, public parks, and buildings?
Thank you, Mr. President, I would 7:05, and I'll go until 7:10, thank you.
Thank you.
For 2023-8.
And then, Councilman Glassmer, would you like to schedule streets and transportation?
Suppose we'll do that at 7:10 then.
Sounds good. Lastly, we'll be appointing a new at-large council member this evening, and that nomination and vote process will take place following legislation. I will briefly, at that time, I will explain the process to the audience, after which nominations will be placed and a vote will take place. Also, if acceptable to all of council, I will thank all the candidates on behalf of all of council during the vote, or actually prior to the vote. Are there any questions with regard to the process and how that will take place? Okay, sounds good. Does anyone on council have anything else they wish to bring up this evening? Anything from the administration?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you. Seeing nothing more, this caucus meeting of January 17th, 2023 is adjourned at 7:49 p.m.
Back to work today.